When you have input into a program, there's almost always a valid range of values. So what you want to do is to prompt the user, read something in, and check to see whether it's in the valid range or not. And if it isn't, go back and tell the user to enter something that is in the valid range. And you keep repeating that as long as the user is typing in something that's invalid. So this is called error checking, and in MATLAB we're going to do this in a while loop. So for example, let's say we want a positive number. So we're going to prompt the user for a positive number, and we're going to keep prompting for a positive number until the user does in fact enter a positive number. So in this case, we're going to start with the prompt. We're going to say enter a positive number and store the result in a variable num. And we're going to say while num is not positive, so while it's less than 0, that means it's invalid, so we're going to print an error message and then prompt the user again to enter a positive number and again store the result in num. So as long as num is less than 0, as long as num is negative, then we're going to keep printing error and prompting the user again for a positive number. Once the user finally types in a positive number, that will make this expression false. So that'll get us out of the loop and down to the next statement, where all we're going to do is just echo print. Yay, you entered, and then whatever the positive number was. So of course, if the user types in a positive number up here the very first time we prompt for a positive number, then the condition will be false right away. We won't execute the loop at all, and we'll just print, yay, you entered, and the value that the user entered. So this is again an example in which we want to actually skip the action of the while loop. We want the user to type in a positive number the first time, and if the user does that, we'll just echo print. Now, if you want to know how many tries it takes for the user to enter a positive number, then we could have our own running count. So we prompt the user for a number, and we start a count at 1, because we've just read in one number. And we say while the number is negative, so if the user did not in fact enter a positive number, we're going to print an error message and prompt the user again, and then we're going to add 1 to our counter also in the loop. So every time we're prompting the user for another and reading into a variable num, we're going to add 1 to our counter. So we're going to count how many tries it took. So once we get out of the loop, we're going to print how many tries it took, so the value of the variable count. So if again, the user actually followed instructions the very first time we prompted for a positive number and the user entered a positive number into num, that's going to make this condition false. We get out of the loop, and count would have the initial value of 1. So it would print, it took you 1 tries, plural. We could, of course, fix that grammar by using an if-else statement. So we could say if the value of count is 1, we'll print it took you 1 try, else, and then we'll use the plural it took you and the value of count tries. Now, if we wanted to error check in a for loop, this is going to prompt the user, in this case, to enter 3 positive numbers. So our outer loop, our for loop, is going to repeat 3 times. Each time the action is to prompt the user for a positive number, error check, keep repeating an error message and prompting again until the user finally enters a positive number. And then, as the comment says, do something, whatever it is you wanted to do with the positive number, do something with it. So 3 times we're going to force the user to enter a positive number with our error checking loop here, and then we'll do something with the positive number each of the 3 times.